Okay, hello everyone. We're going to get started. I just want to welcome everybody to the marketing panel. Management was yesterday. Marketing panel. We're super excited. We have a full table full of really educated professionals here to talk to us about the world of marketing. So we would like to begin by acknowledging and paying respect to the Indigenous people of the land on which we meet, the Mi'kmaq people. Mount St. Vincent University is built on unceded Mi'kmaq territory. We also pay respect to the knowledge embedded in the Aboriginal custodians of this land and to the elders past, present, and future. So before we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping items we just want to go over before. In case of an emergency, we ask everybody to please evacuate through the nearest exits, which are the doors down here, and there's also doors up at the top there. But if you have, we ask you all to stay seated if you can, but if you have a personal emergency and you need to leave, please exit through the bottom doors. We want to avoid any distractions, so we ask nobody leaves through the upper doors. As many as you know, this is a Learning Passport eligible event. So just to keep everything efficient, Miriam has already passed out your surveys and activity pages if you need them. So please have them all filled out by the end, where Miriam will give you your stamp. And we ask you to please turn off your cell phones, mute them or turn them off, and try to be as respectful as you can. Our panelists have taken time out to be here, so please don't play on your phones while we're talking. And we have a 10 to 15 minute period at the end for some Q&A. So please hold all questions you have until the end there. And at the end, we encourage you to come up and introduce yourself to the panelists and ask them any personal questions you want to talk to them about. Okay, so we'll get started. Question 1. Please briefly describe the organization you work for and your position.
Hi, my name is Ashley Urquhart, and I work for a company called Turner Drake & Partners. We are a full-service commercial real estate firm here in Halifax, and we do everything from value commercial properties to sell or lease them. We appeal property taxes and kind of a full gamut. My position specifically is in the brokerage. I do sales and leasing of commercial properties, as well as oversee the business development marketing function of the entire company.
Hello, my name is Ashley McKenith. I'm actually self-employed, so I'm going through the process of incorporating my business right now. So predominantly what I'm doing at this time is I'm partnering with agencies in the city who may be a bit smaller, so web development agencies or small communications firms who have a bit of a gap where they might need someone to come in and do some copywriting. And then I also partner with businesses locally, nationally, and internationally for basically all of their communications needs. So it's a little bit different every day, but it's super fun.
I'm Tyson Alders. I work for a marketing agency called Resulta, based here in Bedford. We're a global marketing service provider that specializes in affiliate marketing and publishing. We're a worldwide industry leader, and our pillars of excellence include digital product development, marketing strategy, performance optimization, business intelligence, and creative solutions. We specialize in sports and gaming and cannabis, just to name a few, and we're continuously looking for new opportunities in different fields to get into. My role at Resulta is a media buyer, which is essentially business development and account management kind of rolled into one. I do digital sales for a number of clients that we represent and work within our marketing department and strategically purchase and deploy ads across a number of mediums, including TV, radio, podcast, book interviews for on-camera talent, and a few things of that nature. So, thanks.
I'm David Tonen. I am the founder and CEO of BEResponsive Media. We are a digital marketing agency based here in Bedford. We tried to differentiate ourselves from other typical marketing agencies by developing a digital marketing system that can track the effectiveness of every media type of campaign that we would do or advertising campaign we would do, so that there's data points attached to it so we can determine whether it's actually working or not for our clients. And ultimately the end goal is to tie it together with a kind of a closing mark at the end that shows the return on investment, so that essentially a client can see how much they've spent on the campaign and how much they've actually made in real dollars to their revenue, which makes the CEOs and presidents very happy when they see that. My role essentially is sort of that same business development. I meet with potential clients. I manage most of the client-facing stuff, and I'm the marketing strategist. So I work through using my experience in strategy, branding, primarily to help guide the overall campaign, and then our staff, then I work with them to implement the pieces to ensure that everything works successfully.
Hi everybody, my name's Joanie, and I'm actually an alumni of Mount St. Vincent University. I work at the Shaw Group Limited, which is a company that operates on a decentralized basis, so it runs through several divisions and subsidiaries. I mainly work for the Shaw Lifestyle Division, the Clayton Developments Division, and most recently the Shaw Living Division. As you might have guessed, I wear many hats, but my official title is Lifestyle Coordinator. So what I basically do is I create recreational events, I work on marketing campaigns, and I'm also a leasing representative for rental units.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. So for question 2, what do you like about your work? What do you dislike about it? And what do you find the most challenging?
So my favorite part of my day-to-day is working with businesses to help them tell their story and to grow. So I think something that is sometimes hard for us to do is separate ourselves from, or sort of separate our business from the work that we do and start to tell our story about who we really are, why do we do the work that we do. So I find that really fun. I get to meet a lot of different people. I get to learn about industries that maybe I knew nothing about before, or sort of dive into new things. The thing I like least is I don't have anyone to handle paperwork or accounting or go chasing money when a bill hasn't been paid on time. So that can be sort of a bore. Honestly, there's a lot of paperwork involved in self-employment. Doing your own taxes is terrible. And then I think probably the most challenging thing, and it's something that I've been really working through for the last probably 6 to 10 weeks, is the idea that when you're self-employed, you are your own boss. And I'm sure David can speak to this as well, is you do get to call some of the shots, but instead of answering to one boss, you might have 12 or 14 clients who all have very different needs, very different styles of working, very different brands, and managing all of those different people and making sure that you're sort of keeping all of their balls as well as your own balls in the air can be a bit tough. So that's something that I'm still learning through, but it is getting better.
What I like most about my role at Resulta is definitely the people that I get to work with. So that's colleagues and clients. It's a really smart group of individuals that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis, and it's a pretty fun industry to be in. I get to work with some really cool brands. We work with some of the biggest sports publishers in the world, which is very cool to me, coming from a bit of a sports background. I'm a bit of an athlete myself throughout my years, so getting the opportunity to work with some really big brands like that is very interesting and something that I take a lot of pride in. Like I said, the bulk of our content is sports and gaming related, so something I'm genuinely interested in and have a passion about, so that's definitely the best part of my job. One thing that I dislike about it, a big part of my role is relationship building, and I definitely get a lot of different requests from my colleagues for sales services and trying to find ad placements for some of our brands that we work with, and everybody wants something done, at the snap of fingers nowadays. That's just the world we live in. But relationship building takes a lot of time and effort to mold those relationships, and it really aids in the negotiation down the road and building long-term partners to work with. So some people don't really understand that if they're not from a sales background, but it's very important, and it's something that I think gets overlooked nowadays is the relationship aspect. So that would probably be the one thing that I dislike, as well as some admin work, like you guys said, and paperwork and chasing payments. That's never fun, but there's not too many things that I dislike. So Most challenging for myself, I would say, just keeping up with the technology. There's a lot of different tools that we use to track campaign performance, SEO, analytics, a number of different things, and there's always a new tool or new app that's coming out, on a daily basis that we use and really rely on at Resulta to help us, achieve our goals and track our performance and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and reaching our targets. So just staying up to date and self-educating on the tech aspect of things, it's a pretty crucial part of business nowadays.
I'd say the thing I love about my job most is that I genuinely believe, when I started BEResponsive Media 10 years ago, the heartbeat was that I totally believe that small businesses and nonprofits are, if they're healthy, are the foundation of a really good community, right? The more successful a small business is, the more they're hiring people, the more they're contributing to the community through their products and services. And so the more sustainable or healthy they are, the better it is for the community. For nonprofits, government can't solve all the problems in the world as much as they think they might be able to. And so the healthy nonprofit sector ensures that our communities are healthy in dealing and helping with families and just other issues within the community. So we have probably about a mix of about 30% of our business work is working alongside nonprofits, and about 70% is with small businesses that are between $2 million and $10 million in revenue, which sounds like that sounds big, but that's not actually that big. And so I just love helping them be successful. And the more success, we've discovered that the more successful we help our clients be, the more successful we are as a business, because obviously they say what you're doing for us is actually working, and you can prove it through your data, and then they just want to keep working with us. So the more we help them, the more it helps us, and our business as a result has been growing exponentially, specifically in the last 2 years. The thing I dislike the most is kind of going back to your point, and we'll probably all say that. When you run a small business, so our BEResponsive has grown from being 2 of us to being 8 of us, and it'll be 10 of us before mid-year. But even at that, there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of logistics, and my business partner, when I brought him on 5 years ago, is the operations guy. And I cannot tell you what a blessing that has been to me personally, because I was not good at filing taxes on time. I was not good at keeping up with some of that paperwork. Having him there ensures that everybody gets paid on time and that everything gets dealt with organizationally. So, but there's still a lot of logistics when you're a business under 10 employees and you've got a lot of clients to manage. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of logistics. So I'm not a logistics guy. I'm more the creative strategy guy. So that is not in my wheelhouse at all. And so whenever I get dragged into those kind of meetings, I really actually don't enjoy it at all. The challenge that I find is biggest is actually a challenge and an opportunity. Never before in the history of marketing have we had the tools at our disposal to actually tell if marketing's working. So all this software, these different tools that we could use, apps, different programs, cloud-based things, allow us to really tell and take away some of the guesswork about whether things are actually working, so that we can, make adjustments on the fly to make campaigns better or more effective, or tell clients this isn't working, we really should stop it. And I just hate watching people waste money. I don't like wasting my own money. Maybe it's my Dutch heritage, but I don't like wasting my clients' money, and I don't like it when I see them not getting full value. And so the challenge is trying to keep up with this changing, evolving marketplace of digital tools, because as you mentioned, like they're changing all the time. There's new things coming up. And what we've discovered is, you can't rely on Google Analytics because they don't really tell you that much. But there's about 20 other tools that each do one thing really well, but they all cost money, right? So how do you choose the half a dozen to 10 of those that really give the pure picture in a particular instance of what the data is that you want, and then how do you analyze that? So it's a constant challenge, but yet an amazing opportunity.
What I love working in my role, I'm a person who gets distracted easily and perhaps bored sometimes. So I love working on multiple projects. I absolutely love that I'm involved with 3 different divisions. So that means my day is absolutely chaotic. One minute I'm working on one project, then I get pulled in another direction, and it just keeps me on top of my feet and makes sure that I'm prepared and organized. The other thing that I love is I am a people person. I absolutely love working with people. So I love that I get to connect and work with community members on different projects, different events. I find that really rewarding and really fun. The last thing, as a couple of the other panelists mentioned, I love the people that I work with, and I feel really lucky that I am surrounded by intelligent individuals. We have great conversations. Anytime I'm in need of some feedback or support, I can go to my colleagues, and we really work as a team. We have an office of 14 people, so it's pretty small, but I work with engineers, I work with project managers, I work with accountants, and we really come together in supporting our end goal. The thing that I dislike, again, same as the other panelists, is paperwork. It's not fun. Even working for a big corporation, we still have to do some of our own paperwork. It's very mundane, it's boring, but it has to get done. The other thing I dislike is kind of, I find humorous. There's not enough natural light in my office, and it drives me insane. I unfortunately have an office that has no windows, so it really, that's something I do not like. And the other thing is that we don't have a big enough communal area. Again, because I'm a people person, I really feed off of people's energy. It makes me energized and it gives me inspiration for different projects. So I wish our office kind of had that opportunity to connect. The most challenging thing, for me at least to date, is a project that I recently faced that involved market research. Market research is something that I struggled with in school, and I still struggle with in the real world. And it's something that, and I hate doing it too, so that's why I find it super challenging. My advice on that, though, is to keep going, do your research, ask for help when you need it, but try and figure it out first. And I'll leave it with that.
I think I can echo everyone here. Working with other people is one of the things that I like most about my job, especially helping small businesses, more so the mom and pop type businesses, as opposed to the big portfolio owners across the country. So typically I like to go after clients who are gearing up to retire, and part of their retirement is to sell their warehouse in Burnside. So those are the types of people that I really enjoy working with. I also have similar office we all get along really well, and I enjoy my coworkers, and my coworkers also lend me some additional background. So when I'm working with a client and I might not necessarily be able to tell them how transaction is going to impact their property taxes, I can go to my other colleagues and get advice in other areas that will also help my clients. One thing that I dislike is cold calling. A lot of things that I have to do involve cold calling. It seems to be the most effective way for me to reach my clients. So as much as I despise it, I always remember Karen taught us, you make 100 calls, you might get 5 prospects, and out of that you might get 2 clients. So you just play on the probability of statistics and it will eventually come to fruition. But I definitely despise making those calls every day, but you have to do it. I think one of the most challenging aspects of my role is having difficult conversations with clients because their expectations might not necessarily be in line with the market. So I've got clients who think their property is worth $2 million when it's really only worth $500,000. So it's trying to help overcome that by showing them market data, recent sales transactions, those sorts of things to help them realize what the property is actually worth. So there's a lot of those difficult conversations that I have to have with my clients that aren't always fun, but they certainly make the job go and transaction go more smoothly in the end.
Okay, thank you. So, question 3, how did you end up where you are today?
So I grew up in Eastern Passage, Nova Scotia here. Playing hockey was my first sport, my passion growing up. I played a number of sports throughout my younger years. I was fortunate enough to play at a pretty competitive level that allowed me to play 5 years of junior hockey and kind of move around the Maritimes a bit, and lived away from home at a young age, which was very valuable in maturing and just gaining some really great life experience. I lived with some billet families across the Maritimes, and met some really great people and built some really great relationships that I still have connection to now. All in the meanwhile still going to school and chipping away at that as I was playing my favorite sport and hobby. And I was fortunate enough to get some of that education paid for through the sport, which I'm very thankful for. And kind of jumped into the workforce right away, and worked at a number of different sales jobs. I did inside sales for an industrial company for a couple of years, and it was pretty boring work for a guy like myself. I knew it wasn't something that I had a lot of passion or interest in, and I knew in the back of my mind I always wanted to work in sports marketing in some capacity, and always thought that I needed to maybe move away from home or move away from the Maritimes into a bigger city to find some of those opportunities. And I was lucky enough to kind of stumble upon Resulta one day back in 2016, and kind of got in for an interview, and things went really well. And it was a company that was really passionate about sports and just seemed like a really good fit for me, and something that I could build a career around and be passionate about, and have something that I enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. So again, I've been with them since 2016, and now that I'm kind of done playing hockey and retired from my athletic career, I still stay involved in the sport. I've been coaching for almost 10 years now. I'm a head coach in the Nova Scotia Major Bantam Hockey League, which allows me to travel across the province and work with some of the top-end youth kind of that are coming through the ranks nowadays, and seeing them grow as players and individuals. And that's very rewarding as well. So I've been able to keep a bit of a connection to my passion and my hobbies while working at a career that I really enjoy.
I grew up in Dartmouth and went to university here in Halifax. Not this university, but I did have this professor for market research and sales. And so I'm a graduate of St. Mary's, and did 20 years, graduated right out of university and went into the publishing industry, not on purpose. My intent was to just get a few years of experience, and I ended up being there for 20 years. That's a whole other story in and of itself. But the publishing industry was interesting because it's the industry that you would be able to relate to, because it was educational publishing, specifically textbooks, software, and ebooks. And so I was the Atlantic sales representative for this company for 7 years, traveling to all the colleges and universities around Atlantic Canada. So some of the courseware that you have in your courses is stuff that's still published by the company that I worked for. And I did a number of sales, marketing management, sales management, and director of marketing positions within this organization over 20 years. So you can imagine that at the end of 20 years, when you've invested that much time in your career, you have a decent salary, you have really good position within the organization, you have really good salary and benefits, but I was miserable. And I was miserable because I figured life needed to be more than about money and position. So at the heartbeat, at the core of who I am, I really had this entrepreneurial seed, but I'd always suppressed it out of fear. I was afraid that even though I had all this experience, that I didn't have, I guess it was a self-value thing. I didn't think that I had enough experience and value to add into another company, that if I started my own marketing agency, that people would actually hire me. But when I hit 40, so that's 10 years ago, I decided, my wife and I were talking, and I said, you know what, I don't want to be 65 one day and wonder if I could have done it. So would you be okay if I take this giant leap of faith and leave this safety and go into entrepreneurship where I might actually not make any money at all for a couple of years? Would you be okay with that? And anyway, after months of wrestling with that, she agreed, and it's the greatest decision I've ever made in my life. Now, mind you, financially, it was really rough for the first 5 years. Not rough in that we were starving or anything, but it was certainly a big adjustment in the household budget to go from a corporate salary that was a director's position to the entrepreneur. You get paid when people pay you. And chasing down all these people, please pay me, I have a mortgage payment to make. So, but here I am 10 years later, and we've gotten some traction, and it really has, I would not go back unless it was super dire situation. I love what I do. And it's not, some of it's freedom, but I actually work harder now than I've ever worked. I put in more hours than I've ever worked, but I love every day that I put in, and I look forward to going in, which is not the way it was 10 years ago. And so it's a risk. It was a risky journey, but it has paid off. It had many moments where I hit a wall and wasn't sure if it was going to work, but that's the entrepreneur's journey. There's nothing certain, but once you finally get that foundation built, there's nothing like it. I've enjoyed every single minute of it.
So I'm originally from New Brunswick, and I went to NBCC for 2 years and got a diploma in marketing. And then Mount St. Vincent came to my school and said, hey, we have a 2+2 program. So I was like, awesome. So then I came to Halifax, and I did my 2 years at Mount St. Vincent. I did the co-op program. And then after graduation, it was a little tough. You'll probably hear me speak on networking, the importance of networking and taking as many interviews as you can and practicing interviews because it's important. The reason why I landed my job is because I interviewed for another position and I was unsuccessful. And that was really hard to take. But lo and behold, I get a phone call probably 2 or 3 months later after I found out I didn't get the job. And it was from the owner of that business. They said, hey, I just found a position that I think you're perfect for. Let me introduce you to him. And because I kept that connection and because I made sure to keep that relationship open with that interview, it gave me this job. And I didn't even know that this job existed. So that's how I kind of got here. And I landed this job in 2017. So it was a year after I graduated. And I really struggled, and it was really disheartening. But I'm here to tell you to keep trying, keep pushing, and network. Network, network, network. It is your best friend.
I grew up in a small town, Musquodoboit, and so I decided to come to the Mount so it wasn't not as big of an adjustment as opposed to going to Dalhousie. So I came to the Mount, and to be honest with you, I kind of fell into my program, or my major, minor, because I liked certain professors. So I gravitated towards marketing, and I also, like Joanie, did the co-op program. If you've got the opportunity to do the co-op program, I recommend it 110%. I had really great experience coming out of university that, other students who didn't take the co-op program just couldn't match. So that really helped teach me how to be professional, how to work in an office environment, how to go through an interview process. So I highly, highly recommend that. From there, again, I feel like I'm copying Joanie here, so please forgive me, I'm not. I applied for a position, I didn't get it, but I told the president of the organization at the time, I said, I want to work here, I'm going to work here, so you'll see my name come across your desk many times. A couple days later, he called me and he said, I created a position for you because no one's ever demanded a job here before. So confidence and tell them what you want goes a long way. I did that role for 2 years. It was contract job though, so unfortunately the contract ended. There was no more funding, so then I had to go off and try and find another position. So I was looking for business development roles, which are another term for marketing for organizations. So that's when Turner Drake was hiring a business development consultant. So I started there and did that for a few years. But then I saw my colleague who was in brokerage doing very similar activities as me, doing the marketing of properties instead of the company. And I decided, hey, if I did that, I can get out and work with people instead of being behind the scenes, but I can also still implement my marketing skills and training that I've received throughout my education and work experience. So I asked my boss, do you mind if I get my real estate license and join the brokerage division? And he said, Ashley, you're going to be perfect for it. I'm a people person, so I went and got my license, and I've been doing this ever since. So I've been a broker since 2012, and I've been with Turner Drake since 2009.
So I grew up in a very rural area in Cape Breton on the Cabot Trail. It is an hour to the closest hospital or grocery store. So when I graduated high school, I was coming to the big city. So I made an unfortunate choice to go into journalism, as journalism was dying. It's no longer what it was 25, 30 years ago, so it was maybe not the best choice to go into journalism in the early 2000s as bloggers, which I am a blogger, and that has sustained me many times when the pickings were slim. But I went into journalism, loved writing, loved storytelling, loved working with people, didn't love not being able to get a job. I unexpectedly had a little boy in 2010, which was scary at the time, but turned out to be the biggest gift. So when I decided, he was 2, I decided I wanted to go back to school. I went to Eastern College and did an advanced diploma in public relations. I started on November 8th, I think it was, and I got my first PR job on December 5th with the Salvation Army. So it was a very traditional public relations role. It was great. I learned so much. I met a lot of people, and to Joanie's point, networking. I bounced around a lot after that. I sort of found a real niche for myself in technology, which was great. I worked with a company called STI Technologies, which is a Halifax-based company, or Halifax-founded company. It sold in February 2017 for $220 million. I came in when it was a startup, watched it grow, watched the acquisition go through, which is invaluable experience. And then I decided I wanted to try something new. So I joined a regional law firm here in the city, thought I was on like the fast track to the big glass office, and then they restructured 6 months later and I lost my job. So I came home on March 12th of last year, and I looked at my partner and I said a lot of bad words that I won't repeat here. And I cried into my pillow and I snuggled with my dog for a week. And then I applied for every job out there. And I had 3 offers that didn't feel right. And I know that that sounds real, like I sound like a spoiled brat, that I wouldn't take the job, but I knew I wouldn't be happy there. I knew that my values weren't aligning. So I had a similar conversation. I looked at my partner and I said, how do you feel about paying all the bills for a while? And I'm gonna try this new thing. And fortunately, he was very supportive. My family was very supportive. Our friends were all super supportive. And then the connections that I've made over the last 15, 20 years started coming back to me. Actually, funny enough, one of the companies that turned me down for a role has since engaged me on a project when they needed someone to come in and help with some strategic communications planning. So don't give up. I know it can feel really scary when you're going out into the world or when you've applied for a job you thought was the dream job and it doesn't work out. Sometimes not getting what you thought you want is the greatest gift. It really, really is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for question 4, can you tell us about the types of jobs that might be available for students considering a career with your company or in your field?
Well, that's a tough question, but I'll give you, I mean, we're an agency that's growing. We're actually in a place right now where we're trying to figure out how big do we really want to be. So that sounds like a strange thing to say, but we're kind of coming in on that place where we're internally, my business partner and I, having the conversation, do we want to be a business that has 10 employees and caps the number of companies we actually work with, or do we want to be a company that has 25 employees and blows open the doors to many more opportunities? being a company with 25 employees would be a whole lot of other logistics that, and me being the non-logistics guy, doesn't excite me at all. But as we're growing, here's what's been happening, and it kind of ties in with some of the networking things that you guys are talking about, but it also talks about the kind of the cold calling and the taking a bit of a risk. What I've noticed just in the last year or year and a half, that I've had students who are third and fourth year students that have done research, found our company website, took a risk and said, hi, I'm student, I am not yet graduated, but I go to this school and I'm looking for opportunities for internships, co-ops, or summer jobs. And that impresses the living daylights out of me as a business owner, because you're taking the initiative not knowing if I have anything or not. So last year, for the first time, we took a gamble and decided to do a co-op thing with a journalism student from Sheridan College in Toronto. And that's a big thing for a smaller company to take someone on when you've never done it before. And it worked wonderfully for us and wonderfully for her. She stayed not only for her co-op, but then we loved her so much, we hired her for a summer position. So she then got 3 months employment last summer. And in fact, and she was graduating then, so she was done. So we actually loved her so much that we offered her a job full-time last September. And she turned me down because she wanted to go back to Toronto. So that was good for both of us, but not as good for us as it was for her. So what's happened, though, is since this spring, or just in the last 3 months, I've had 2 more students. One who's a Dalhousie management student, one who's an Acadia math and computer science student reached out to BEResponsive Media. I have interviewed both of them, and both of them are on the short list for another summer job that we're going to put into place on May 1st. So I'm not saying that I'm asking you to contact me and fill in, try to apply for that job necessarily. What I'm saying is be creative in how you try to sniff out stuff. Halifax is a very different kind of city than a city like Toronto. I lived there for 5 years. I know how that workflow works. Halifax is all about the networking, all about the relationships. If you don't know somebody, somebody you know knows somebody. And if you take a little bit of a risk and put yourself out there, you're going to have a better opportunity than if you sit and wait, or if you only apply for stuff that you see posted on job postings. There's a lot more jobs out there now than are ever posted. The last 2 positions that we hired full-time, we never posted the job. In fact, one of them, we wrote the job description specifically for a particular candidate. Once I discovered her skill set, it solved 3 problems instead of 1 problem for our organization. So she's kind of doing 3 jobs in 1 in thirds. And it was perfect. So that's all I'll say about that. The networking, be brave and be creative in your approach to trying to find positions that are related to your passions and your interests.
There's actually current available roles at the Shaw Group. I went and searched that up. Right now, the Shaw Group is looking for a senior accountant. I know that's not related to marketing, but there might be some accountants in the room. Another job is a customer service representative and an inside sales representative. And then I went dig a little deeper to see what other roles are available. So there's my role, which eventually I hope someone will take and I will grow with the company. So lifestyle coordinator. There's sales and marketing managers, sales consultants, sales and marketing associate, accountant, sales coordinator, brand and marcom specialist, product marketing spec, HR, and marketing associate. But to touch on what David said, my role did not exist until the gentleman that I was not successful in the job met his colleague or agency. And when they heard about who I was and what my skill set was and what they were trying to achieve, then that job came to fruition. So again, I'm touching a point on network, and be creative.
Turner Drake actually hires all of their consultants fresh out of university. So we typically post at the end of semesters when people are graduating. So we start you off in a consulting role where you go and you do space measurement and certification of buildings. So you'll go into an office, you'll measure it with a laser, you'll come back, you'll draw it up in a floor plan and certify the area of the space. We do this for landlords so leases are accurate and that sort of thing. From there, you get cross-trained in all of our consulting divisions. So you get to work in our valuation division, valuing properties. You get to cross over into our property tax division, appeal property taxes, and then you can decide which is the best fit for you and then kind of grow in that role that you decide. So we actually, we are always looking for new applicants for people who are interested in doing something a little bit different than your traditional marketing role. You would have the opportunity to build your client base through these roles though, so if it's something that's of interest to you, you still get to apply those marketing skills.
I would love to be in a position to be hiring right now. Really would be. I'm investigating hiring like a virtual assistant, like a part-time virtual assistant, which would be really cool. But I think a lot of what David said was bang on, is reaching out to people. If there's a company that you really, really want to work with, or even as Ashley said, go to them and ask them for a job. You'd be amazed what people in this city will do if they see talent and passion and drive in you. For some of you, you may one day be thinking of having your own business. It was actually not something I was thinking at all. I just got really tired of hearing no last year. But I started reaching out to business owners and saying, hey, can I buy you a coffee or a beer or lunch? And can I pick your brain for a little while? And people are really keen, I think, to help one another here. I think that's what makes Halifax such an incredible city to be in business in. So if it is something that you're thinking about, that one day maybe you would like to have your own business, or if you're thinking of a side hustle, I highly recommend reaching out to small business owners. They're a wealth of knowledge, and they're so keen and willing to help. And I think we have recognized in Halifax, and I see it all the time, is there's no sense of a pie. Like there's no feeling that if I refer someone to David, I don't feel like he would be taking business from me. I feel like I'm kind of sharing the goodness sort of thing. So I do a lot of subcontracting right now. If someone comes to me wanting design work, I try to find someone who has an interest in design or who has a background in design and subcontract it out. So there are a lot of opportunities for jobs that, again, don't end up on job boards or that you've never even heard of before, that could be right within your niche and totally fill a void for you and what you're looking for in your career.
At Resulta, we've actually been in hyper-growth mode for a number of years now, and are showing no signs of slowing down, which is a really great thing. Our company started, I believe in the early 90s, a group of individuals from Cape Breton with a passion for sports betting. Started a small company that's basically exploded over the past decade. I think when I joined back in 2016, I was around employee 48. We're well over 100, 120 right now. Basically, since my time starting there, we've had at least one new person start every Monday. That's not even a joke. I can't even keep track of people's names now. It's awful, but that's a really great sign for our business. We've never been stronger than we are right now. The great thing about our company, we're constantly looking to do more and continue to expand our work. So whether we have set positions that we're looking for or establishing new ones on the fly, that's something we do a lot of. So we basically set out targets, set out goals, and if we don't have the bodies that can kind of fill those holes that need to help us get to where we're going, we'll create positions on the fly. So that's a really unique part about Resulta. We've had a number of people that have come in and interviewed for a specific role. We're not successful, but a few months down the road or even a year or two later, we've brought them back because we've created a new position that didn't exist at the time that we thought they were really good for. And myself, when I started, I've kind of molded into a few different roles, and they've essentially built a media buying team that I've been fortunate enough to kind of head up right now. So that's a really, really cool part about Resulta, is that we're always looking for new opportunities, and if you're someone that fits well within our culture, they do a pretty good job of finding a way to get you in the door and finding somewhere for you to be with us. So we have a wide range of roles and positions there, from marketing specialists, content and social coordinators, sales. We have staff writers that produce editorial content for some of the biggest publishers out there in the world. We're amongst some of the top affiliate marketing companies in the world, and our goal is to be number one. So we have a really dedicated and passionate group of executives that are really, really smart, business-minded people that are constantly kind of staying a step or two ahead of the game and continue to kind of push the boundaries for what we can do. So there's always opportunities there, whether, like I said, it's a position that we're looking for right now or something that might pop up in the future. We have a very large IT and tech department, as well as we own and operate hundreds of websites that we essentially strip down and build back up for whatever our goals are. Lots of different positions ranging with SEO and analytics. That's a huge part of our business right now, is tracking everything as best as possible to ensure that we're on the right path and doing the right work to get us where we need to be.
Okay, thank you. So for question 5, if you had to do your career over again, would you do anything differently?
So my short answer is no. I absolutely love what I do. I feel really lucky to be in the role that I'm in. Before I was in this role, I didn't know that I wanted it. So I feel like if I chose any different kind of path, I wouldn't have landed here. So yeah.
That would be a no for me as well. I actually applied when I first graduated to what I thought was my dream job. It was a mortgage and a management trainee program where I got to go to California and work there. And I went through the interview process and had 3 interviews, and I thought, oh, this is mine for sure. And they said, sorry, you're not a good fit for this role. And I was absolutely devastated. But looking back, it was a good thing, because who knows where I would be right now, and I'm quite happy with my current role here. So I definitely wouldn't have changed that for anything.
Yeah, it's going to be a no from me. I really do believe that everything sort of happens for a reason, and that often keeps me sane when it feels like things aren't going well. If I had to change one thing, I wish that I would have seen my own value a little sooner. I had a lot of self-doubt. I spent a lot of time worrying that people wouldn't take me seriously, that I'm a young woman, that I'm not going to be able to hold my own at the boardroom meetings with the big guys who have been in business for a long time. And I've discovered that a lot of those fears really were rooted in myself and not anything that anyone else saw. So I'm really happy with the experiences I've had in my career, but every now and again I wonder what more I could have done if I'd realized how capable I was just a little bit sooner.
I don't think I would really change a whole lot either myself. If there was one thing I think I would do over is just be more goal-oriented and to set and establish more goals at a younger age, whether they're big or small, long or short term. That's something that I definitely did not do enough of, and it's just something that can keep you on the right path. You never know exactly where you're going to end up, and it's going to take failing a couple times to really kind of find out where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. But setting those goals right off the bat from an earlier age would definitely help you kind of find your path and just kind of find your own way out there, instead of just being more streamlined and thinking everything's going to be a straight upward climb. It definitely doesn't work like that. But by setting goals, again, short and long term, it's very, very important, both at an early age before you start your career, and changing those goals on the fly, depending on where your life kind of takes you.
I'll make it unanimous and say no. To echo what everyone else has said, like, when you have a career win or a career high, that's something to celebrate. When things don't go the way you planned or goaled out, is that a word, goaled out? It is now. It's sports. It doesn't all go your way. Like, I had corporate positions within the organization that I applied for and didn't get the job, and I was devastated. But that is good, because it teaches you that life's not always fair, because some of those were not fair situations, and some of them were maybe I just really wasn't the right guy at the right time, or the right person at the right time. The only thing I would have done differently is I would have got a hold of my self-esteem a little earlier than 40, and maybe started the journey towards entrepreneurship in my mid-30s. Again, kind of, you know, what could BEresponsive Media look like if I had kind of gotten my act together personally in my mind and just my own self-confidence, and I'd done it when I was 35 or 36 or 37. But I don't lament that. I don't look back and go, oh, you know, I screwed it all up. For the longest time, I used to say, I'm still not sure what I want to be when I grow up. 2 years ago, I finally became what I wanted to be when I grow up. And so, you know, that's 50, right? So you've got a long way to go. Just have the realization that you have more value than the voices inside you might say. You're capable of more than what you think you're capable of. And every life experience is a good experience, whether it's positive or negative.
Okay, so in the interest of time, we're going to move to question 7. So what particular skills, attributes, or training makes a candidate stand out from the rest when applying for positions? This can be part-time jobs, extracurricular activities, volunteer work, and which ones have an impact on their chance for employment.
So, like I said, we hire directly out of university, and we post our jobs on our website as well as Career Beacon, and we post on the university site. So that's kind of a starting place for where to find us. When we get applications, we look for things that separate you from the rest of the pack. One huge thing that I look for is travel, because it kind of gives me an idea of your ability to go beyond your comfort zone, get new, unique experiences, work with different cultures, that sort of thing. I took part in a program called Global Vision. I was a junior ambassador for Canada, and I went on trade missions to Peru. I went to the 5th Summit of the Americas in Trinidad. And so I got kind of a political, worldly experience alongside my education. And so that kind of separated me from the folks who didn't kind of participate in anything outside just their school. So I highly recommend that if you're the type of person that's entrepreneurial, even things like owning your own landscaping company over the summer instead of working in a McDonald's or something like that. Those sorts of things I look for and say, okay, wow, they're able to go work on their own as well as part of a team. And I know that interviews are really nerve-wracking. The more you do, the easier they get. I just recommend try to be outgoing in your interview and show that you're passionate about what it is that you're applying for. And those are some things that really go a long way when I'm looking at applications.
I used to do a lot of hiring, actually. So one thing that I would always look for is the person's personality to be shining through. I think the best thing you can ever do when you're looking for a job is just be you. That is, you know, no one else is going to be you, so you might as well do it and do it really well. Skills can be learned. So if there's a skill set that you don't currently have, but you're really willing to learn it, bring that up in your interviews. Tell people why you're passionate about what you do, how excited you are to learn from other people. Cultural fit is really important in a lot of organizations. I know it's something that I always looked for when I was nobody wants to go to an office where everyone is miserable. It's terrible. I've been there, it's not fun. You cannot get paid enough money to spend 40 hours of your week around miserable people. So, you know, having a really positive attitude, being engaged, being friendly, showing a little bit of initiative, I think those things go very, very far. If there's 10 people in the room who have the exact same experience in education and one person is really keen, that's probably going to be the person that the company's going to hire.
Yeah, I think volunteering and being involved in different activities throughout your life are huge when applying for jobs. Nowadays, I think employers are really looking for people that fit in well within the culture and the environment that they have there. So if you can demonstrate that you're willing to put in work for something that you may not be getting compensated for, I think goes a long way. Of course, everybody wants to be paid for their time and effort, and that's kind of what makes the world go around. But when you're trying to get your foot in the door, just showing that you're willing and able to kind of go that extra mile and be able to work well as an individual and also as a team player is huge. So I know, coming from a sports background and being on a team basically my entire life, it's been massive for me in job interviews, and that definitely always gets brought up in any job that I've ever applied for, is taking those team experiences and building individual leadership, and just again demonstrating that you're kind of willing to go the extra mile and be involved in multiple things, and just finding the right person to fit within that organization's culture says a lot, a lot more than just maybe what skills you have on paper or what training that you have. But yeah, I could definitely go a long way, as well for having great references, right? I've had lots of coaches and mentors for myself personally from a sports background that have helped me get interviews and helped get my foot in the door in places, and really speak highly of me that I can't say enough for. So definitely very, very valuable.
What I'm going to say is so simple that you're going to think that I'm crazy, but I'm going to give you an example of how this doesn't happen. So when you see a job posted, aside from all the networking and all that great stuff, when you actually see a job posting and it says, in order to get this job, do the following 3 things. Follow the directions. And why I'm pointing this out is, I'll give you an example. We were hiring a graphic designer. So it described the company, it described the position, it described the daily duties, and then at the bottom it says, in order to apply for this job, you must do the following 3 things. Submit your resume, submit a cover letter telling me why I should consider having an interview with you, and send me a portfolio of your work. We had probably 37 qualified candidates. Only 3 of them did all 3 of those things. And I was just absolutely shocked, floored, and dismayed. So guess how many interviews I actually did? 3. All those other 34 candidates didn't get even a sniff, because they didn't, and most of them didn't send me a portfolio. That was the missing piece. The second part of that story, which you might find hard to believe, is one of them I said, I did not receive your, replied to his application. I said, you did not send me your cover letter telling me why I should give you an interview. And he replied back, oh, no, I sent it. So I replied back, okay, but somehow I did not receive it. Please send it again. And his response was, I already sent it. I'm like, don't argue with me. Like, what are you doing? And so he also did not get an interview. So just follow the directions. Simple, but it makes a difference.
To touch on what Tyson said, I truly believe part-time work, volunteer experience, extracurricular activities are extremely important. Doing those things will give you experiences and lessons in overcoming failure, working on a team, meeting deadlines, and learning how to juggle work-life balance. When you're in an interview, they are going to ask you those questions. And through those experiences, you'll be able to touch on that and have an authentic response. My other piece of advice is research the company. Even when you think you have researched the company enough, dig a little deeper, because the interviewer will know if you did not do enough research. They will be able to see it on your face. They'll be able to see it in the way you respond to questions. They might ask you a question about the company, and if you don't know the answer, they will remember that. That being said, also have at least 2 to 3 authentic questions about the company or for their interviewer. Whether one of my favorite questions, and they also love this, I believe Tyson and Ashley might have touched on this, is what is your company culture like? They love to hear that question. They want to know they want to make sure you're asking it, and it gives them an opportunity to highlight why it's so great working for them. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. So for our last question, we would like you all to give your best quick advice for students heading into the workforce. What sort of positions should students seek out after graduation? And yeah, what advice do you have for them?
All right. I won't make any assumptions of what types of positions you're all looking for. Just looking through the room here, I can see there's lots of diversity. Everyone has different backgrounds. You all have different passions and interests. So I'll give you 2 pieces of advice that have both served me really well. The first is to be open. So it's great to have goals. Don't become so laser focused on your goals that you don't notice when opportunities are standing all around you. If I wasn't open, I wouldn't be working with some of the clients that I'm working with right now. And I have been closed off to them and lost opportunities, and that bites. My second piece of advice would be to remember that you're interviewing companies as well. So to Joanie's point, ask them a lot of questions. This is where you're going to spend most of your time. So really make sure that it's the right fit for you. Don't be afraid to turn down an opportunity if it gives you like a sick feeling in your tummy, and really just have fun with it. This is an exciting time. I know it's also scary as all get out when you're coming to the end and you're like, oh, I have to be a grown-up now. It sometimes isn't a lot of fun, but you really do have the world ahead of you right now. So be open, have fun with it, and ask lots of questions. Don't stop learning. That'd be about it.
I would say just have confidence in not knowing everything. Employers aren't going to really expect you to know absolutely everything there is to know about the job or how to do everything when you first show up for an interview. That stuff can be taught, but demonstrating your work ethic and your attitude and your ability to fit in with the culture will really kind of shine through. I think Joanie touched on it earlier about just practicing your interview skills. So one of my mentors gave me really good advice a few years back and just said, even if you're in a really great job that you absolutely love, it never hurts to show up for other interviews just for the sake of it. Even if you get offered the job, you might not want it. You might not have any interest in it whatsoever, but to just put yourself in that environment and keep your skills up to date, and just having the confidence of going into different interviews and speaking with people can help you with a future opportunity that you might not see coming down the road. But that's definitely some great advice that I would definitely recommend. But yeah, just be confident in not knowing everything, and that you're going to fail multiple times, and failure is probably your best experience, and it will put you on the right path to where you want to be, and you'll be thankful for it down the road.
The advice I'll give you is the advice that my faculty advisor gave me when I was graduating. So, of course, you graduate, are all of you marketing students? There's a mix? Well, I was a marketing major. So, of course, I wanted a marketing job right out of college, out of university, right? And so I went and sat down with my marketing faculty advisor and said, like, what's my best pathway to getting a marketing job? And he says, don't apply for any marketing jobs. I was like, what? And he goes, apply for sales jobs. And I'm like, but I don't want to be a sales guy. And he goes, no, you don't, but here's the advantage of doing this. He said, if you apply for a sales job and you do sales for 2 to 3 years, what this does is it does 2 things that will benefit you for the rest of your career. Number 1, you'll understand the customer like you cannot understand the customer in any other way, because you'll be sitting in front of customers selling to them all day, every day for 2 to 3 years. Secondly, and he says, marketing people need to understand the customer in order to be good marketing people. Secondly, he said, the benefit of being a salesperson is that you will understand the mindset of a salesperson because you were one for 2 to 3 years. Good marketing people are creating collateral, campaigns, and tools for salespeople. And so he said, you can't create good tools if you don't know the tools the salespeople need. And so I went and did not apply for any marketing jobs. I only applied for sales jobs. And I did do sales. My intent was 3 years. I ended up doing 7, but that's another story. It was good. And you know what? It's the best advice I ever got because it's made me a really good marketer. And it's made me a really good business owner of a marketing agency because I really understand customer needs. And when I understand what their needs and their problems are, I can create solutions to make their life better.
My piece of advice, I've already mentioned it once, but don't get discouraged. If you're out in the workforce and you're applying and nothing's come up and you just feel like, keep going. Keep going, make those connections, network. My other piece of advice would be to what David said. If you can, find a mentor. Seriously, reach out to anyone, whether it's a professor or someone that works in a role that you would like to see yourself in, or you just reach out to the company. You're just like, hey, I really like what you guys are doing. Is there any chance that I can meet with anyone? Generally, a lot of people they love to talk about themselves, and they love to go on those interviews because, like Ashley mentioned, Halifax really is a great city and it's a great community, and we really want to push everyone to be the best they can be. And that opportunity could open the door for you for getting a job into that company, or meeting someone that could land you a different job, or just learning from their mistakes and their life stories. And I'll end it with that.
Well, these folks stole all the good answers. So I won't repeat that, but for me, I never thought I would end up being in commercial real estate, never even thought of real estate in any realm, let alone commercial. So apply for things that you're not quite sure of and just see what happens. Try new jobs that might have a marketing component if that's what you're interested in. But I would say definitely, go out there and try something new. If you can't find anything right away, maybe start volunteering in a firm or for an organization that does something similar to what you'd like to do. And that's also a good opportunity to see if you enjoy it. A lot of people, when you're in university, you think, oh, I want to be this, it's going to be great. I wanted to be an office manager. That was my big thing. Then I just worked in an office and I'm like, I don't want to manage these. I don't want to deal with this. Like, that's a lot of, that's a lot. So I think just be open-minded and don't be discouraged if you don't get your dream job, because like I said, and Ashley said, everything happens for a reason, and it's probably for the best if you didn't get it. So that would be my advice for that.
Okay, awesome. So that concludes our marketing panel. Let's all give a round of applause to our awesome panelists. Okay, so now we have about 10 minutes left for anybody to ask any questions that they would like to ask the panelists. Don't be shy, we're a pretty small group here today. I'm sure they're willing to answer.
Good. So my question is for Ashley Urquhart. And so you work in real estate, which is quite heavily regulated. So my question is, as a marketer that has rules around how you can and cannot market, how do you remain creative and do what you want to do while dealing with those regulations?
Yes, as you're aware, there's advertising rules that we have to follow. So we keep those in mind. But I guess I just have a system in place where I create, marketing my service or marketing a property, would you say? Because how I market my brokerage role itself, we've tried several of the marketing things, that traditional marketing things, radio advertisements in newspapers, those sorts of things. they're not working for us. They don't work for me. I would have to do a full-on campaign and spend thousands of dollars that I wouldn't get a return on. So for me, sending a prospecting letter and following up with a phone call and networking are the best ways that I get clients. In terms of marketing a property, I do it through flyers, through the MLS system. We've got our own websites, and then we've got a cooperative broker database, so we circulate all of our listings to those brokers. So we've kind of stepped back and took a more traditional approach to marketing in terms of cold calling and letters, and that seems to work the best for us. Emails get deleted today. There's so much noise and things all around us. Even just driving down Bedford Highway, there's so many billboards, I can't even tell you what ads I saw. And that's kind of a sin because these guys are paying thousands of dollars to have those ads up there. So it's that kind of answer.
Yeah, I guess what I should have asked is, do you feel that, the mic. Sorry. I guess what I should have asked is, do you feel that being in a regulated industry inhibits your marketing efforts?
Maybe around the social media side of things, that could have an impact. But a lot of my clients where I'm in the commercial side don't tend to go to social media to look for real estate consulting advice. There's a few core commercial groups in the city that do it, so I don't personally feel like it inhibits me. I actually kind of appreciate it because it gives me those guidelines to follow, and I know that, you know, I have to have my MLS sticker on my sign and things like that. So for me, it's kind of keeps me on track. So it's a good thing, but I can see how it could impact other industries that are regulated.
Okay, so my question is for everyone. So as an international student and a student in general, like how did you really build that confidence? Because I'm beginning to see now how important confidence is now that I'm like writing cover letters and applying for jobs, and I'm realizing that like how I'm not really as confident as I think I am, and I guess I miss out on a lot of my skills. Like, I mean, you have to talk about yourself, and I know you mentioned travel, and when I think about it, I'm like, wow, I've traveled to so many different places, but that never comes up, and it's just because I'm never comfortable enough to bring it up, and I leave out so many important things that I feel like maybe would help me kind of stand out, but it's so hard when you're so nervous and you feel like you kind of have to fit in, and then at the same time, it's like, you need to stand out, so like, it's just so hard to, it's hard to balance, because it's like, I'm from the Bahamas, so I came to this new place, and I'm trying to fit in with the culture, but then at the same time, you're looking for people that stand out. So I'm like, how do I really balance that as a student? So.
Fake it till you make it. I'm not kidding. Another, and it's really kitschy, go on YouTube and watch the Power Stances video. It's a TED Talk. It's like 5 minutes. I have looked like a complete moron standing with my arms up and my legs spread in like the power stance or like hands on my hips, because it actually does bring you confidence. So start practicing those types of things before you're going into a meeting or an interview, and nobody knows that you're nervous when you walk in. So just have a mantra. I know it sounds stupid. I used to have "You are great" written on my bathroom mirror, and my little guy's 10 and he plays hockey. And before every game, kid you not, he's like, I'm going to score a goal tonight. And before every shift, he says it, and then he scores, and he's like, self-fulfilling prophecy. So I will pass on my parenting advice to you as well, is just fake it till you make it. Tell yourself you can do it, and you will. And if it doesn't pan out, it probably wasn't meant to anyway.
I'll add to that from a business owner's perspective and say, marketing essentially at its core is just telling your story. So tell your story. Tell your story of where you came from and why you came here, and what your dreams are for being here in Halifax. That will set you apart, number one. And number two, I think the other side of it is, and this is a tip for anybody, it's not just international, is do a follow-up. So no, very, very few people that I've interviewed have sent me an email within a 24-hour period and said, thank you very much for taking the time to interview me today and hear my story. I look forward to an opportunity to having a second interview or hearing where this process goes. And the ones that do immediately stand out in my mind and separate themselves from the rest of the pack. It's a small thing, but it makes a massive amount of difference for me to remember you and to look at you with a positive light.
I might add a little bit to that as well, but like you said, confidence is it's tough to build and to establish, but like she touched on, rehearsal at home and just positive self-talk. I've learned a lot of that through my sporting background, and that's something that now as a coach that I teach the younger kids coming up, that in their, before a game, they have to get, we have a pre-game warm-up kind of all dedicated almost 2 hours before our game, and a good chunk of that is just individual visualization. So picturing themselves in positive situations, whether that's sport related or business related, you can do that at home. Like she said, it might sound a little goofy, but rehearse yourself at home in the mirror. Like if there's things that you want to talk about, that you want to bring up and share your story with, have a few go-to questions in your head and practice them at home, and just that will slowly build confidence up. And like I said, going through different interview experiences and just getting yourself out there, it might seem a little rocky in the beginning, but you'll start to get your feet under you, and you'll build a little bit of confidence. It's not just going to come overnight. It's going to be a bit of a building block, but take the time to do self-rehearsal at home and positive self-talk. And I'm a big believer in that, and think that the universe will give back to you at some point in time. So it's a great idea.
To also touch on that, do your research. So in order to be confident, do your research. It's better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So always do your research on the company. And like I said before, if you think you have enough, you don't, dig a little deeper.
No one ever grows unless they're outside of their comfort zone. So you always have to push yourself beyond the comfort zone to ever grow. But I think that one thing you could do is apply for a bunch of jobs that you don't want. I do not want this job. You'll go into the interview saying, it doesn't matter if I get the job or not. Then you'll get the confidence built up by going through that process many times. It's just like public speaking. Getting up here would be so scary to some people, but I've done it so many times that it's just, like riding a bike. So, and the fake it till you make it. Don't lie, but fake it till you make it.
Okay, so thank you everyone for their questions, and let's give a final thank you to our panelists.